What if your procrastination isn't laziness, but a quiet rebellion from your wounded inner child? What if the stillness you're drowning in is not failure, but a sacred pause? The world might call it unproductive. Your inner critic might whisper shame. But what if something deeper is trying to speak? Through your silence. We live in a world that glorifies productivity, hustle, deadlines, goals, and punishes stillness. We equate movement with meaning. When you're still, people ask what's wrong. But Jung knew. What we call laziness is often a mask over the soul's quiet protest. When the child within you grew up under pressure, to succeed, to please, to be good, rest became dangerous. Stillness felt like failure. You were told to do more, try harder, smile wider. So now, as an adult, when you stop moving, a panic sets in. But it's not because you're lazy. It's because you were never taught how to rest without guilt. The child in you is still alive, and it's scared, not of failure, but of being unseen, unloved, unsafe. Every time you sit still and can't move, it's not because you don't care. It's because you learned early on that your worth was performance. When you couldn't meet expectations, you felt like a burden. That feeling never left. It just matured into fatigue, apathy, paralysis. Your body remembers. Your nervous system remembers. And now, every task that should feel simple feels like a mountain. Because your brain isn't lazy. It's guarding an old wound. We've been sold the myth that motivation is constant, accessible, a choice. But in reality, motivation is a current, and your soul might be unplugged from the old source. Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of us we've rejected, suppressed, or disowned. The wounded child lives there, and so does the version of you who tried so hard to be enough. When we begin shadow work, we stir these ghosts. We call them forth, and we feel the weight. What we call burnout is often the soul shedding what no longer fits. After a spiritual or emotional awakening, something strange happens. First, you feel free, like stepping out of a burning building into clean air. Then, the silence, the loss of meaning, the flatness. You're not depressed in the clinical sense, but you're not alive in the old way either. That's what Jung called the liminal space, the death of the persona before the birth of the self. It's the cocoon. You've dissolved the caterpillar, but the butterfly hasn't formed. And it's terrifying, because no one tells you that after awakening comes emptiness. Not because you've failed, but because the mask you wore is gone, and you're waiting to remember who you really are. Pause here. Think. When you wake up and can't move, what voice do you hear in your mind? Whose voice? A parent? A teacher? Society's? Your inner child remembers. The time you were called lazy. The time you were punished for needing rest. These messages became your inner critic. And now, every time you try to stop and breathe, it attacks. But what if you stopped believing it? What if the voice you need now is not the one pushing you, but the one saying, it's safe to slow down, you're still worthy. Stillness is not inertia, it is intelligence, it is integration. Your nervous system slows down when it's overwhelmed. Your mind enters quiet when it's protecting you. The freeze response is not failure, it's a biological miracle. Your brain is doing exactly what it's meant to do when you're unsafe. The work now is to create safety, not speed. What looks like laziness is often the body trying to heal. Individuation, according to Jung, is the sacred process of becoming your true self, apart from who the world told you to be. It's not about climbing a ladder, but digging into your roots. It begins when the persona breaks, when the career, the roles, the expectations no longer define you. And in that break, there is often collapse, a sacred collapse. Your energy fades not because you're weak, but because you're no longer powered by performance. And that void? It's not the end, it's the beginning. It is the self whispering, "I will carry you now." Maybe the vision board that once excited you now feels hollow. Maybe the goals you used to chase now bore you. That's not apathy, that's evolution. When the soul awakens, the mind grieves. The tools of the old self, ambition, hustle, applause, no longer work. Not because you've failed, but because you're no longer trying to survive. You're learning to live. And real life starts not with what you do, but with how you be. True awakening is not a detachment from the world. It is returning to it, fully present. The self doesn't want to escape. It wants to feel, to create, to serve, but not from fear, from truth. You begin to move, not because you're told to, but because it would be dishonest not to. This is soul-led motion. It's gentle, it's slow, but it's powerful. And it begins when you stop pretending you're okay and start listening to the you who's been quiet all along. Eventually, a new kind of energy emerges. Not loud, but steady. Not urgent, but aligned. It says, "I want to do this, not to prove anything, but because it's true to me." This is the new fuel. It doesn't come from shame, but from self-respect, and it grows slowly. With every moment you choose rest without guilt, truth without performance, and presence over perfection. So if you've been feeling lost, still, tired, know this: you are not broken. You are breaking through. You are healing the part of you that believed you had to earn rest, earn love, earn existence. The next time you're lying in bed, paralyzed by nothingness, remember that stillness is sacred. Your inner child isn't lazy, it's just scared. And now, finally, it is being held. Subscribe to MindDepth. This is where your healing becomes your story.